Welcome, everybody.
Hey, hey. Good boy, Tucker.
Work smarter where you want.
This is learning at its most fun.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on another Thursday webinar. My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to be taking you through our Redtail Essentials on the calendar. So really today's webinar is we are going to be talking about activities, but really just focusing on the main calendar page. And so what we're going to start with is just going straight over to the CRM. I'm going to swipe over. And so the calendar page, even though when you first log in and you can see things to do today, this is actually going to list activities pulling from the calendar, and you can view them here. And just to quickly demonstrate, anytime you want to add an activity, you can always use, if there's a blue button in the top right that has the option, you can do so. But I always like to point out, you always have the plus sign in the top right-hand corner, no matter what page you're on. You can easily add an activity. So what I'm doing right now, even though I'm not on the calendar page, I'm still able to add something to the calendar. All right, so let's actually do that. I'm just going to make an activity we're going to call our client Phil. So I'm going to say call Phil. What I definitely want to do is make sure to attach his contact record. So we'll search by his last name and attach him that way. One of the most important things, especially when creating activities, other than when the activity is happening, which let's actually just keep it for today. I'm going to mark it as an all-day event because it doesn't necessarily matter what time I want to call this client. Now, if I did tell him that, hey, I'm going to call you today at 3 o'clock, I can definitely add that information in by making sure the all day is unchecked and then putting the duration of the time. But again, what's most important, other than the actual time of when that activity is happening, is using fields like your type and your category. And so this actually says open appointment slot. That's not what this activity is. It's going to be a phone call, and we'll keep it as the category of it's going to be about customer service. So this is just quickly to demonstrate how I can add something to the calendar. And so when I hit create activity, you'll see it'll throw itself on the page right there from 3 to 4. Now the calendar, now that I've added something, I can actually go over to the left-hand side and click on the calendar page. Okay, so this is what we're mainly going to be focusing on, is this page here. What I want to show is anytime you click on calendar, you have some navigation you can actually do with this page. And the first button actually says navigate. So when I click on this, I can easily say, hey, I need to look at next month, and I can jump a whole month ahead. If I want to jump a year ahead, a few years, I can actually click around and say, hey, I actually want to jump to 2030. I can easily do that. Now, again, if you need to go back, you can always just hit today and it'll take you straight back to whatever day it is. Now, over on the right is more navigation between using the today page, or sorry, the day, the week, or the month. You can easily switch between those. So I normally like to prefer and keep mine on the week view itself, and this allows you to actually see what's going on. Now, I want to actually talk about some preferences, because everything so far that I've showed, I can actually override on this page. But when I click day, week, or month, or even when I'm looking at my day starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 5 p.m., or that I only have Monday through Friday on this page, that can all be controlled. And so to change that information, all you have to do is go to your name in the top right-hand corner and then click preferences. What's great about this preferences page is it is unique to the user. So this will not affect any other user in your database, only your own username when you're logged in. And so I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and we're mainly going to look at this section called calendar management. And so first off, you'll see you have the ability to have a default calendar view. This is either going to be day, week, or month. What that means is anytime I click on calendar on the left-hand side, what do I want it to default to? And actually everything on this page is actually showing your defaults. If I want the calendar to start on Sunday, if I want to start on Monday, I can actually have it start on any day of the week if I like. You'll notice I can also choose if I want the calendar to have a start time to an end time. So if I want to say, hey, I want to actually start booking things a little earlier, I can move this earlier. or I can even move my actual day to go a little bit later. So keep in mind, you do have control over what the calendar is showing you. You also can choose what your default calendar time slots are. As a suggestion, I would really say that 15 minutes is actually the most common slot here. Now, I have 15, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes, and just sort of show you what that means is if it's set to 15 minutes, and if I click on calendar on the left-hand side, what that is showing is you'll see that the 7 a.m. hour is split into 4 segments. So I actually have those different lines. That's saying that those are 15-minute blocks. If I were to go back to my preferences, and if I scroll down and if I change this to 30-minute blocks and save those preferences and then come back to the calendar, you're going to notice that now there's only 2 blocks. So now those are 30-minute blocks. Same thing goes as if I change it to 60 minutes, I'm only going to have 1 block per hour. It doesn't mean that you can't schedule things for 15 minutes still or things like that. It's going to condense your page. So that's why I like to say to make it easier to see everything on the calendar, when you go to the preferences under calendar management, the most common one is 15 minutes, because again, that expands things, allows me to see way more information than just choosing to see the 60-minute time blocks. Now, other things you can change in regards to your preferences can actually be changed up here in the actions. Now, the main difference between actions up here and your preferences is going to your name and changing the preferences is going to be the default. So that means every time I click on calendar, that's what's going to show. But if I go to actions, I can override any of those actual defaults. So for instance, right now, I'm only showing the weekday, not the weekends. If I go to actions, I can click on show weekends and it's going to update my calendar. So now I can see Sunday and Saturday. But if I want to go back over and I can say, actually, I want to hide the weekends now, I can actually click on hide weekends and then it takes them back away. But again, those preferences are defaults in your name and then preferences here. So every time I click it, it starts out where I want it to. Now, other things in regards to actions are going to be either showing or hiding your completed activities. This is actually a common one where I talk to a lot of people, I mean, not often anymore, but I used to talk to a lot of people who say, I don't like to complete my activities because it disappears from the calendar. Yes, that's true and not true all in the same sense. Most of the time, the default is actually set to where it's hiding the completed. And so you don't see any activity that you've already done on the calendar page. I actually like that. So for instance, if we'll actually go over to this call meeting, to this call fill that we created, if I actually open up this activity, and if I come over and I hit save and complete and mark it as completed, you're going to see it's no longer showing on the calendar. But if I go to my actions and I hit show completed, you'll see that it'll actually bring it back. So I can still see it as an actual activity on my page, even though it has been completed. So keep in mind, you're not always losing activities once they're completed, but you're actually doing a service saying, hey, I'm telling the system this activity is over, but I can still report and see all that information pretty easily. Now, what you might have also noticed is that activity, when I completed it, changed colors. In fact, all of my activities have different colors going on. And how you can actually control that is actually going back to when you're organizing your activities. So if I actually click on the calendar to add a new activity, which I can do, I want to point out it's this field right here, the activity type. This dropdown is what controls what color you're going to view the activities as. Okay, so it's the activity type, and how you can actually choose what does each activity type show for each color is also in the actions icon in the top left-hand corner. So when you click actions, the very first item says change colors, and you'll see I have a list of every single activity type in my database. The first column is when that activity is still open. The second column is when that activity is completed. So you can definitely say, I want it to be bright red when it's open and dull red when it's closed or completed. You can definitely do that however you want. What's also great about these colors is if you change a color, it will not affect anybody else when they log into their username. So again, this is only affecting your own, and it's saying when you're logged in under your own username, how do you want to see the calendar? You get to choose whether you want appointments to be red, or if I say, I actually want appointments to be, this yellow color, and I'm going to choose that. And that's how it's going to show on my calendar for me. Again, you can change any of these colors. If you do want everyone to have the same colors, you can always just copy the color code and tell everyone to fill that out. But again, it's not going to affect you if somebody else has different calendar colors when they're viewing the calendar from their page. Now, if you do ever make changes, make sure and scroll down and hit save colors. So that way it updates and you can actually have your colors. I mean, if you like to change the colors for the seasons, however you want, it's up to you, because again, those colors will not affect anybody else in the database. Now, even though there are multiple users on the calendar, that's going to be our next drop down. You can actually choose whose calendar you're actually looking at. And right now it's defaulted at, when you first go to it, it says all users. But if you just want to view your own calendar, what you can easily do is just select where it says me, or deselect everybody. Anytime you deselect every single user, it's always going to select your own self, because there's no reason to view an empty calendar. We'll hit the today page here. So again, you can view, here's just my calendar. If I want to view my calendar and somebody else's, I can choose the users again. And let's say I also want to view Tucker's calendar. So I can bring both of them up there at the same time. And now you'll see here's all Tucker's activities that have joined me. Now, because colors will not denote each user and what activities they are, what I want to point is it's actually right here. If you see a user's name in parentheses, it means that activity belongs to a different user. So I'm logged in as Curtis. I'm looking at my calendar and Tucker's calendar, and I can see that these activities that have Tucker's name on them are his activities. But I can also say, hey, this is an appointment versus a phone call based off of the color that I've decided to look, or that I've decided to see it as. All right, next to that, next to the users, you can also choose whether or not you want to view certain activity types or activity categories. You'll notice when I choose either of those options, nothing's selected. Same concept here. If you don't select anything, it's going to show you everything. There's no point in seeing a completely blank calendar. But again, if you only want to focus on certain things, like I only want to look at my client meetings and my client reviews right now, I can just choose those items and just view those pretty easily. When you're done with that, you can uncheck them, and then it reselects everything so you can view your whole calendar again. All right. Now, other things that I do want to mention again is these actions are defaults. And I would definitely say take a look at what's available, what you want to see, what you want to hide. You'll see there's things that are like seminars, and we have our workflow tasks and things like that. You can turn those on or off, and you can always, again, go back to your name in the top right, go to preferences, and then from here, you can scroll down to the calendar management, and then you can change all of those defaults on or off. So again, if I don't want to see all day events, I can change that to a no. If I do want to see completed activities or I don't, I can change those. What's great is most of these are already going to be defaulted. You can come in and turn them on or off depending on however you want to see it. Now let's go back over to the calendar page again. And also under this actions button, you also have the ability to print the calendar. So if you do want to print a calendar, maybe for your week, your month, however you want, whatever the page is here, and you choose that actions and print, is what's going to show. So now you'll see here's the calendar. It shows those activities and what's happening. And what's great is if I scroll down, I'm going to see those activities in more detail listed with the specific times and their dates as well. So not only can I have a full print of the calendar and the colors that I select with them, but I can also see the list of those activities. So you have the ability to still print the calendar if you don't just want to view it from the Redtail CRM. Now, other things you definitely can do in regards to scheduling is, I already pointed out once, is anywhere I click on this page, if I click, it's actually going to put the start time and start date for wherever I click. So I clicked on the 4th at 12 o'clock. That's where it schedules the appointment. So it's an easy way to actually schedule from here. If I switch this over to a month view, you'll notice I can scroll down and say, hey, I actually want to schedule something in November. I can click on, the 17th, and it's going to give me a pop-up for something I can schedule on the 17th. So wherever you click on the calendar is where it's actually going to set the time. Now, it doesn't mean you have to set it for that time, because again, if you click on the calendar, you can override any of these fields. Now, also what you can do is you can actually manage some of the activities after they've been created from this page. We have a drag and drop option. So for instance, there was, we'll actually just use this activity, this open appointment slot. Let's say that, hey, it never got filled. I can actually drag and drop it over to another date and time. I can even choose to expand this. Hey, it's set for an hour. If I wanted to go to 2 hours, I want it to be an hour and a half. You can actually manipulate that. Or if you want to get more precise, all you have to do is just click on the activity. It'll take you directly into it. And then from there, you can actually choose, what time, what the end time you want it to be, and change that duration. Now, the calendar itself does have some ability to sync outside of Redtail. One of the most common tools we have is a program called Retriever Cloud. That program is actually designed to sync with Office 365 and or Google, and that's specifically going to be a Google Calendar. I do want to point out that even though both of these are email programs, this sync has nothing to do with email. It is strictly just about syncing the contacts and or the calendar items. Now, to set that up, all you would have to do is go to your name in the top right-hand corner, and then you can go down to where it says Manage Your Integrations. Once you're there, what I would suggest is where it says Filter Integrations in the top right, just type in the word cloud and you'll see that integration item will pop up. Now, once you see Retriever Cloud, what I would suggest is hit the gear icon in the top right and then click on Support. Once you click on Support, this is going to take you to our Redtail Help Desk article, which actually talks about this program, what it does, how to set it up. And so that's just a good helper to have as you go through. But after you click that, you can go back to the gear and then click Settings. And this allows you to choose whether or not you want to sync the contacts and or the activities on your calendar. Now, again, activities and calendar are the same thing. And then after you select those, you can choose if you want to sync it with Outlook, which is Office 365, or you can enable the Google Sync from there. That will give you the ability to actually add something on Redtail and have it add to that calendar and vice versa. Now, if you have more questions about setting up those things, what I also suggest is go to the question mark in the top right-hand corner, click on Redtail Help Desk, and then from here, you can actually just type in sync your data. Or even if you just type in sync, you can definitely find it that way. But if you type in sync your data, it takes you to this place where you can actually click on sync your data and learn about, hey, how do I sync with Google, Office 365? What are the different options I have to actually sync my calendar from there?
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.